Good day everyone, our report is all about things to consider in designing a curriculum. Now let's get started.
Curriculum design is an essential process for educators to ensure that students receive a comprehensive and effective education. It involves the planning, development, and implementation of a course or program of study. In this presentation, we will explore the things to consider in designing a curriculum, which are the following. The first important concept to consider is horizontal curriculum. So what is it? Horizontal organization refers to the way in which curriculum content is organized across different subjects or disciplines. It involves identifying the connections and relationships between different topics and ensuring that they are taught in a logical and coherent manner. To be more specific, this refers to the organization of content within a single grade level. It also includes deciding how to sequence and integrate content across subjects to create a cohesive and integrated curriculum. Overall, this approach helps students to see how different subjects are interrelated and how they can apply their knowledge and skills across the different areas of study. For example, a horizontal organization in K-12 education might involve integrating science and math concepts to help students understand how they relate to one another. Now, what is vertical organization? Vertical organization refers to the way in which curriculum content is organized within a particular subject or discipline. It involves identifying the key concepts, skills, and knowledge that students need to learn and ensuring that they are taught in a logical and progressive manner. To be more specific, vertical organization refers to the alignment of the curriculum across different grade levels, ensuring that each grade level builds upon the knowledge and skills learned in the previous grade level. This approach helps students to develop a deep understanding of the subject and to build upon their prior knowledge and skills as they progress through the curriculum. For example, in math subject in K-12 curriculum, vertical organization ensures that students learn foundational skills in elementary schools such as addition and subtraction, which are then built upon in middle school with multiplication and division, and further expanded upon in high school with algebra and calculus. This ensures a smooth transition and progression for students as they move through the K-12 system. What are their advantages and disadvantages? The advantage of horizontal organization in curriculum design allows for integration and connections between different subjects, providing students with a comprehensive understanding of how different topics relate to each other. However, it may be challenging to ensure that all subjects receive equal attention and to maintain coherence across different topics. The advantage of vertical organization, on the other hand, ensures a clear progression of knowledge and skills within a subject area, building a strong foundation for students to build upon. However, it may lead to fragmented approach to learning and limit students' ability to see connections between different subjects. To sum it up, both horizontal and vertical organization have their advantages and disadvantages, and the best approach may depend on the specific needs and goals of the curriculum. They are important and need to be in balance in designing a comprehensive curriculum. Vertical organization ensures that students have a strong foundation and can build upon their knowledge from year to year, while horizontal organization ensures that students can make connections across different subjects and the big picture of what they are learning.
Good day everyone, I am Christine Tilandayan and today I will report about sequencing curriculum content. So, sequencing curriculum content involves determining the order in which topics and skills are taught within a particular subject or discipline. There are several approaches to sequencing, including simple to complex, prerequisite learning, chronology, whole to part learning, and increasing abstraction. Each approach has its own benefits and drawbacks, and educators must carefully consider which approach is most appropriate for their students and for their learning objectives. First, what is simple to complex? Simple to complex refers to sequencing content curriculum in a way that is arranged in a manner that builds on previously learned concepts. This means that basic or fundamental concepts are introduced first before moving on to more complex or advanced topics. This approach is particularly useful because it ensures that students are able to grasp the basic knowledge before progressing to more complex concepts. For example, in teaching math, a teacher would first introduce basic concepts such as addition and subtraction before moving on to more advanced topics like fraction and percentage. This way, students can fully understand the fundamental before being expected to tackle more difficult math problems. Similarly, in teaching English, a simple to complex approach could involve introducing basic grammar rules and vocabulary first before moving on to more complex topics such as syntax and advanced literary analysis. For example, an English teacher may start with teaching the basic parts of speech such as nouns and verbs before introducing more complex grammar concepts such as clauses and phrases. Additionally, students may first learn basic vocabulary words and simple sentence structures before progressing to more complex writing tasks such as composing essay or analyzing literature. Overall, the simple to complex approach is a useful sequencing strategy that can be applied to any subject or topic in curriculum design. It emphasizes the importance of introducing basic concepts before proceeding to more complex and abstract topics. This approach is beneficial in helping students build a strong foundation in the fundamentals of a subject before moving on to more advanced topics. As a result, students can gain a deeper understanding of the subject matter, leading to better success in more challenging assignments or activities. Second, what is prerequisite learning? Prerequisite learning involves sequencing content in a way that ensures students have the necessary knowledge and skills to successfully learn more advanced content. In short, it is a curriculum design approach that ensures students have the necessary knowledge and skills to successfully learn more complex knowledge. This means that certain foundational concepts needs to be learned before students can move on to more advanced concepts. Prerequisite learning is important in ensuring that students do not struggle with complex concepts that require a solid foundation in basic concepts. Prerequisite learning is particularly important in subjects like English, where a strong foundation in basic grammar rules is necessary for success in more complex tasks like writing compositions. For example, a teacher in poetry may require students to master literary devices and poetry genres before moving on to more advanced topics like analyzing poems and writing their own poems. This approach ensures that students have a solid foundation in the basics of poetry before they move on to more complex texts, making it easier for them to understand and apply new concepts. Similarly, in teaching history, students need to understand the basic facts of a particular time period before being able to analyze the causes and consequences of those events. In summary, Prerequisite learning involves sequencing curriculum content in a way that ensures students have the necessary knowledge and skills to successfully learn more advanced content. This approach is particularly useful in subjects where one concept builds on another, and it helps students build a strong foundation in the basics before moving on to more complex topics. In short, prerequisite learning is important in curriculum design as it ensures that students have a solid foundation. This approach helps to avoid frustration and confusion among students who may struggle with more advanced topics due to a lack of knowledge of basic concepts. By ensuring that students have a solid foundation in basic concepts, teacher can ensure that students are able to answer all activities that will be given to them.
Thank you so much for listening. Now let's proceed to the next reporter.
Chronology. Chronology refers to the process of sequencing curriculum content in chronological order. To be more specific, sequencing content chronologically involves arranging content in the order in which it occurred historically or in the order in which it is typically learned. This approach is particularly useful in subjects like history, literature, and social studies, where events or concepts are interconnected and build upon one another. By organizing content in chronological order, students are better able to understand the context of the subject matter and how events or concepts are related to one another. This can help students see the bigger picture and make connections between historical events and social, political, and cultural developments that occurred over time. Teaching literature in English, sequencing content chronologically might involve starting with ancient literary works and moving forward through history to contemporary literature. For example, a teacher can begin with epic poems like the Iliad and the Odyssey, move on to Shakespearean plays, then to the Romantic period, the Victorian era, and eventually modern literature. Studying literature in this way, students can develop an understanding of the evolution of literature over time and how different literary movements were influenced by historical events and societal changes. They can also see how certain themes and ideas have persisted throughout history and how they have been explored in different ways by different authors. Similarly, in teaching history, a teacher can start teaching about early human civilizations before moving on the ancient world, medieval times, and eventually modern history so that students can easily understand the lesson. Overall, sequencing content chronologically is an effective way to help students understand the historical, social, cultural context of the subject and how it has evolved over time. It allows students to see the bigger picture and make connections between events and ideas, which can lead to a deeper understanding of the subject matter. Whole-to-part learning. Whole-to-part learning is a curriculum design approach that involves teaching the big picture concept first before breaking it down into smaller parts or details. This approach can be useful in helping students understand complex concepts and how individual parts contribute to the overall whole. By starting with a big picture and gradually breaking it down, students can see the relevance and importance of each part and how they fit together to form a larger concept. For example, in teaching physics, a teacher must first discuss the laws of motion and energy conservation before delving into specific concepts like friction, gravity, and momentum. By understanding the bigger concepts first, students can better grasp how these smaller concepts fit into the larger framework of physics. Whole-to-part learning can also be applied to other subjects. For example, in history curriculum, students might first learn about a major event or period in history such as World War II before exploring the smaller details and causes of the war. This approach can help students understand the broader context of the war and the impact it had on society and the world before getting into the specific details of the battles, leaders, and strategies involved. Overall, whole-to-part learning can be a useful curriculum design approach for helping students understand complex concepts by starting with a bigger picture and gradually breaking it down into smaller parts. That ends my report. I am Vince Miranda, and here is Maricel Mahusay to discuss increasing abstraction.
Hello everyone, I am Maricel H. Mahusay and my topic for this report is increasing abstraction. Increasing abstraction is a curriculum design approach that involves sequencing content from concrete and specific concepts to more abstract and general ones. This approach helps students build a solid foundation in basic concepts before progressing to more complex and abstract ones. For example, In teaching writing, increasing abstraction might involve teaching students about specific writing genres, such as descriptive or persuasive writing, before moving on to more abstract concepts like style and voice. By starting with concrete examples and gradually moving towards more abstract concepts, students can develop a stronger understanding of the principles that underlie effective writing. Another example of increasing abstraction would be to teach students about specific types of plants and animals before moving on to the more abstract concepts of classification and taxonomy. Overall, increasing abstraction is a useful curriculum design approach in subjects where one concept builds on another, as it helps students build a strong foundation in basic concepts before moving on to more complex and abstract ones. Again, always remember that sequencing curriculum content refers to the process of organizing and arranging the different components of a curriculum in a logical and coherent manner. There are various approaches to sequencing curriculum content, including the following. Simple to complex. This approach involves starting with basic concepts and gradually building up to more complex ones. The advantage of this approach is that it provides a clear and structured pathway for students to follow. However, it may not be suitable for all subjects, as some topics may not follow a simple to complex progression. Prerequisite learning. This approach involves sequencing content so that students have the necessary knowledge and skills to learn more advanced content. The advantage of this approach is that it ensures that students have a strong foundation before moving on to more complex topics. However, it may limit creativity and exploration, as students may not have the opportunity to explore topics outside of the prescribed sequence. Chronology. This approach involves sequencing content in the order in which it occurred historically or is typically learned. The advantage of this approach is that it provides context and a sense of continuity for students. However, it may not be suitable for all subjects, as some topics may not have a clear chronological sequence. Whole-to-part learning. This approach involves teaching the big picture or concept first, then breaking it down into smaller parts or details. The advantage of this approach is that it provides a context for learning and helps students understand how different components are related. However, it not be suitable for all subjects, as some topics may require more sequential approach. Increasing abstraction. This approach involves sequencing content from concrete and specific concepts to more abstract and general concepts. The advantage of this approach is that it helps students develop critical thinking and problem-solving skills. However, it may be challenging for students who struggle with abstract thinking or who require more concrete examples. Overall, each sequencing approach has its own strengths and drawbacks, and the most appropriate approach will depend on the subject matter and the needs of the students. Curriculum designers should consider a range of factors, including the content, the learning objectives, the needs of the learners, and the teaching methods when deciding on a sequencing approach. And the conclusion will be read by Princess Harmony Mankawan.
Good day, everyone. I am Princess Harmony Mankawan, and I am here for our conclusion. In conclusion, horizontal organization involves integrating contexts across different subjects to show how they are connected and relevant to each other. It helps students develop critical thinking and problem-solving skills, and it makes learning more meaningful and engaging. Vertical organization, on the other hand, involves sequencing content within a subject area to build a prior knowledge and skills. It ensures that students have a strong foundation before moving on to more complex topics. Both horizontal and vertical organization are important in designing curriculum, as they help ensure that students have a clear and logical path for learning. Horizontal organization allows students to see how different subjects relate to each other, which can help them understand the relevance of what they are learning. Vertical organization helps students build a strong foundation in a subject area, which is important for success in more advanced content by using a combination of these approaches. Curriculum designers can create a comprehensive, effective learning experience for students. Moreover, it is also important to remember that there are 5 sequencing approaches in curriculum design: the simple to complex, the prerequisite learning, chronology, whole two-part learning, and increasing abstraction. The simple to complex approach involves starting with basic concepts and gradually building up to more complex ones. Prerequisite learning involves sequencing content so that students have the necessary knowledge and skills to learn more advanced content. Chronology involves sequencing content in the order in which it occurred historically or is typically learned. Whole-to-part learning involves teaching to big picture or concept first, the breaking it down into smaller parts or details. Increasing abstraction involves sequencing context to more abstract and general concept. Each approach has its strengths and drawbacks, and the most appropriate approach will depend on the subject matter and the needs of the students. To sum it up, designing a curriculum for any subject area requires a thoughtful consideration of various factors such as sequencing approaches, horizontal and vertical organization, and the needs of the learners. By taking into account these factors, educators can create a curriculum that is relevant, meaningful, and effective in helping students develop necessary knowledge and skills for success. Thank you so much, and that is the end of our report. Thank you.